What was something you saw you were definitely not supposed to see? I used to work in the basement of a pretty large hospital doing engineering work. They'll often cart dead bodies out of the hospital through the basement, so it's usually not a big deal. You just tend to try and ignore it. One time, as I was finishing up a test in a pretty remote room, I walked out to an entire security detail escorting a body. I just got immediately shoved back into the room, so nothing really exciting happened, but I always wonder who that could have been. I don't know if I wasn't supposed to see this, as I can't figure out any reasoning behind this beyond maybe exhibitionism. Though really I don't want to put exhibitionists in the same group as this couple because goodness gracious, I had a patient who was close to death and we called her daughter. She came and we set her up in the room to stay until her mother passed. She brought her boyfriend, which is not abnormal. I walked in to do my routine check and they were having sex on the cot that was set up for her maybe 15 feet from her dying mother. I mostly didn't want to see, so I am answering this wrong.
Hey guys, much like you, I love reading people's stories on Ask Reddit. Unfortunately, there's a lot of weird middle school level, just thought experiment type hypotheticals like nice try Baskin Robbins. I don't find this compelling, so that's why I've made it my mission to trawl and crawl through Ask Reddit and find the very best content and put it in your ears. That's why I'm begging you, like and subscribe. If there's anything I can do to help you out, give you the kind of content that you crave to help you get through your workday, let me know in a comment. But please like and subscribe.
My third job I had at 17 was at a pizza place. I had 2 managers, one male, one female, and they were both married to other people. Well, I went to hand in my drawer at the end of one shift and walked into the office, and there they were just making out with some heavy petting. Their spouses found out. They left their families, and then those 2 managers got married to each other. As far as I know, they're still together. I am getting a lot of people sending me messages that are insulting me for having my third job by 17. Like, wow, I didn't realize all you Redditors were so accomplished by 17. But my first job was dieseling, like many other kids in my small Midwestern town. Then, I worked concessions at an outdoor pool. Once again, Midwestern town, so this outdoor pool was only open during the summer. So, then by 17, I needed another job, and thus, I arrived at the door of a Pizza Hut. Also no, I didn't tell their families. I was 17, I didn't even know these people's spouses. Their families found out because they told them themselves, because they both wanted divorces from their respective spouses. Back when I was a teenager, we hosted a New Zealander at our house for a couple weeks. Guy gets to our place after the flight, and about 10 minutes later am walking around my house to see where he's at. The door to his room is partially open, and the dude is laying face down on the bed and humping the everloving fuck out of a pillow. I backed away slowly like Homer when he saw a cheating on his wife. I felt bad for the pillow. For all of you asking, no, it was not a wool pillow and it didn't resemble a sheep. I caught a ball he threw out to get an audience participant, and since apparently I was too young at the time, my mom went up. She was one of like 8 volunteers. He went down the line and gave them all envelopes. All of them were told to think of a number. He then instructed them to say the number they were thinking and then open the envelope which had a number written inside. Every single one was right. Couldn't fucking believe it. She said she had no idea how and acted amazed. I did some magic and knew how most tricks were done or had a general sense of how they worked, but seeing one like this dumbfounded me. I figured when they did shit like that on television it was all paid actors, but it was my mum, so it had to be real, and I for the life of me could not fathom it. 10 years later that show got brought up. My mum says, oh yeah, no, he just told us all what number to say. Won a used laptop from my female friend in a bet. She had a bunch of nudes on it. A lot of people are asking what the bet was. I drank a pot of Ben Eyes for it. She was pretty drunk while making the bet, but I came around next morning to collect cause I didn't drink that pot of BANISH for nothing. If anybody wants to know how to drink a pot of BANISH, you just pretend it's soup. Also, stop pushing me asking for the nudes. I deleted them as soon as I saw them. Happened when I was 7. I found the Tom and Jerry DVD I had lost in the back of a drawer. In celebration, I decided to watch it again. By the time my mother walked into the living room and saw me watching a threesome, I was already scarred for life. She took away the entire DVD collection. I found invitations to my big surprise 18th birthday just lying on the floor a few weeks before the event. I had to act surprised when the time came to walk through the door to the party, which I did. The only thing is, my twin brother also knew, which I didn't know at the time, and let's just say his acting skills are really bad, so we both found out in different ways about the surprise party, but neither of us knew that we found out about it. So when I walked through the door for the surprise, I could tell from his reaction that he knew. When I was a young teen, I was once leaving my house to go do something in the neighborhood. As soon as I got out of the door, I heard my parents at the garage. My mother seemed to be in her car, and my father was sitting down behind her car and pleading with her not to leave. My parents were divorcing, and I saw a few scenes that I wish I never had. Not really horrific, but seeing your parents in emotional pain can be rough. A while back, someone posted a video of a father singing to his baby in the NICU after an emergency C-section. The baby had been taken out early because the mom has died unexpectedly overnight. The baby died shortly after. After I watched that, I felt like I had intruded on someone's private moment with their child, and that I was not supposed to see that. I filter the links I click on a lot more carefully now. I hope that man has found a way to begin his healing. For those asking, yes, it's the man singing Blackbird.
I turned 36 this year, and I decided to focus on my physical fitness, so I bought a swim club membership. The only problem was, most of the time when I go swimming, I wind up getting an ear infection. So it turns out that normal earplugs, they kind of irritate your ear canal, they don't really work, they don't keep the water out, but there is an amazing kind of earplug called Mack's Pillow Soft Silicone earplugs that, they feel great, they keep the water out 100%, they're reusable, and they don't irritate your ear canal at all, no issues. If you've ever had a severe ear infection, you don't want to experience that again. It can permanently damage your hearing if you're unlucky. So investing in these earplugs is definitely a good idea. Also, when my baby was crying later this year and I could not get to sleep, I used the same earplugs and they worked great. I was able to sleep right next to a crying baby. So be sure to click my affiliate link and purchase some of these Mack's earplugs today.
I do conventions and corporate events for a living. Was once called into a room to fix a power cable. It was a meeting of a worldwide well-known house paint manufacturer. It was a closed-door meeting and I had to be let in to do my job quickly. They didn't stop talking as I did my work. We've pulled all the units from production and recalled all units on the shelves, but the ones still in transit cannot be recalled. They might be caught when they reach the sales floor if the retailers are still watching the recall, but it will have been weeks since we issued it. The guy who then responds to that states that they can prove they did their diligence in court with the recall and any units sold to consumers will be the retailer's fault. I never did get to hear what the recall was for, but they seemed pretty tense over it, legally speaking. So I doubt it was quality control. I felt like I had witnessed the mafia talking about a murder. One time when I was around 9 years old, I woke up to take a leak in the middle of the night. I saw that the television was still on in my parents' room through the tiny opening in their bedroom door. My bathroom's near my parents' room. I went to check up on them. And when I opened the door, my God, I can never erase what I saw. I saw my mom on the edge of the bed and my dad eating her out with all his might. I literally said, "Mama." And they didn't even hear me because they were so into it, so I just ran quickly back to my room. I remember the next morning, During breakfast, I asked my mum if there's any more juice left and she said, "There's no more. Your dad has the last cup of juice." And then my dad said, "You can drink the rest of it if you want." He offered his cup of juice to me and I looked at the rim of the cup and already felt sick to my stomach. I'm 20 now and I still can't believe I remember seeing that. TLDR, saw my dad going to town on my mom in the middle of the night. The salaries of everyone working at the company I was working at, it was a smaller, start-up digital ad agency with about 60 employees total, and someone from HR was making copies of a document that listed everyone's salary and left the original on the glass of the copier. I found it and turned it back in, but not before I went through that list to see what everyone else made, and discovered that a couple new hires working the same position as me were making more than me. So after turning it in, I met with my manager and used my newfound knowledge to my advantage to successfully negotiate for a raise, along with a tacit promise that I wouldn't divulge what I knew to anyone else in the company. The owner of the club where my sister worked took an armload of shotguns out of his truck. It was about 3 a.m. and I was parked behind the bar waiting for her. The reason I know he didn't mean anyone to see is because he covered them with a tarp and he gave a good long stare around when he got out. Shady fucker, he was up to every kind of no good. I literally scrunched down in my seat. Back in the day, I would try to download anime episodes and clips off of services. This was either days of Kozo, before people widely recognized that programs were hives of illegal porn, and I'm one of the kids who was introduced to all sorts of disturbing stuff this way. The worst, though, was a small clip of a crying girl, late teens, 20 at the most. It was only about 10 seconds long, but at about the 6-second mark, about the time I was sighing and saying ugh, of course this isn't Goku, someone shot her in the head. I hadn't even noticed the gun at her temple until her skull was shred to pieces. Every once in a while, I remember that, and it makes me wonder who she was, who mourned her, and what sort of sick person films that. Lots of folks are saying the video might have been a fake, even a well-known one. I sure hope so. 10-year-old me didn't know that, of course. It didn't mess with me too badly, but I never got the thought of how blood in the movies is never quite a dark enough red out of my mind. I did theatre tech in middle school, so they gave me a key to the theatre so I could work on stuff when the building was closed. Only, it turned out that the key they gave me was a master. It opened any door in any building on campus built in the last ish years. I told the assistant headmaster pretty much as soon as I figured this out, and he was cool with it since I was basically a responsible kid. But then, this one day, one of the faculty members locked himself out of his apartment and I let him back in. His wife was not pleased. And that's the story of how I lost my ability to work on theatre tech stuff whenever I wanted. Back in 1997, I started work at a new job and took over the office of a salesman who had recently been fired. I was in it, using the same computer that had been set up for sales. My first task was to install all the software I'd need. The computer hard drive was almost full, so I poked around and found a ton of folders filled with porn. Went to my supervisor, and he said to delete it, warning me that the salesman had been fired for downloading porn. Over the next few weeks, I kept finding secret porn folders on the company's network. Not only had he downloaded enough porn to max out his computer's HD, he had the network at about 90 capacity. When I was done deleting all the folders I could find, the server capacity was less than 50. Dude was seriously addicted to porn. I work in a major hospital and we service everyone from politicians to celebrities. It was most likely a well-known person or possibly a person from a hot news report that the media was focused on, even if it was only a sheet and you can't see the body. The ordinary people, the reporters, and the paparazzi try their best to take photos. We have caught people pretending to be patients. We prevent ordinary people trying to sneak a picture, which can easily be sold or leaked. No matter how famous, in life or in death, a person is entitled to privacy and it is the hospital's responsibility to heal them and always protect their rights. Oh, I agree. I freaked a bit. They were both thrown out by my supervisor, though I wasn't sure what the appropriate response was. Her mother was dying, so I thought maybe just throwing out the sew alone would be better so the patient wouldn't be alone. I didn't know the relationship, but I'm still unsure of the appropriate response. I did stay with the patient till the end, and I hope she found her peace. I still can't comprehend the daughter's actions. Years ago, a colleague had an old smartphone that he brought in to give to another coworker as theirs broke. The phone was sitting on the new owner's desk, but she hadn't yet tried it out, as it was still charging after months of not being used. We were talking about how cool it was with the coworker smartphones were not widespread yet, and I picked it up to see how it felt in my hand. I pressed a button, and the first thing that I saw was a Google search for lump on anus. I quickly put the phone back down. This must have been the last thing he searched for when he last used it a long time ago, and forgot about it.
If there's ever a fly or a mosquito or like a yellow jacket or some weird unknown insect in my house, my wife will not leave me alone until it is dead, and she will blame me personally for having a house that an insect entered. The only way that I'm able to buy peace for myself so that I can work on this YouTube channel that you enjoy is by using an electric fly swatter with an affiliate link in the description. The way this fly swatter works is that you hold down the little button and then you whack the fly as if it were a tennis ball, and it looks like a tennis racket. And what the electricity does is it stuns the insect or kills it so that you can clean it up easily. And the fact that it's a tennis racket gives you a much better chance of actually hitting the insect. And I found it invaluable, and I hope that you will decide to also use it in your home. And, if you're like a teenage boy, you can also whack other teenage boys with it. We used to do that in the Boy Scouts.
My sister's nudes. Came across an old ASP thumb drive and found screenshots of my sister nude video chatting. The pictures were dated around the time she was 15. Update with the deets. The thumb drive was in a pile of electronics we had stashed in a closet after we moved houses a couple years back. The pictures were screens of her video chatting with her then boyfriend, and I remember seeing thumbnails mostly of her naked boyfriend with mostly screens of her feet on the upper right. Dunno if the guy was requesting feet stuff or if it was my sister's weird sense of humor, but if anything the pics were more of the guy than of her. I discreetly set the thumb drive amongst her things, as to not allow anyone else to stumble into it like I did. God forbid our sweet old parents open that drive. This was several years ago. I'm sure my sister found the drive and destroyed the evidence already. I have no way of confirming unless I ask her which. I don't. When I was in my late teens, I was sitting with a friend in his car at a set of traffic lights about 3 a.m. on a quiet street in the city. At the next set of lights ahead, which was maybe October 2nd, 2024 away, I saw a guy walk up to the car waiting for the lights to change. He extended his arm and fired a shot almost point-blank range at the passenger window, before quickly walking off. We sat there in shock for a minute thinking, did we just fucking see what we thought we saw? While the car sat there through 2 more light changes, before slowly rolling away. No other cars were on the street at the time. The next day I saw on the news some dude from a gang called the Assyrian Kings was shot in the head in a car and died right around where we were the night before. We never said shit about it to anyone as we decided we didn't want to get involved, being paranoid teenagers. I look back as the first childhood generation with access to the internet. It's incredible how our parents underestimated the power of the internet and assumed it would never take off. This led to a ton of scarred children and teenagers discovering that people from all over the world were capable of sharing absolutely fucked up videos before the www amps were more regulated. I'm right there with you. I saw so much shit when I was a kid that I shouldn't have. Similar thing happened when I was a kid. At my grandma's, she set me up in her adult stepson's bedroom while the adults upstairs did whatever I can't remember, and after looking through his movie collection decided on a Spice Girls VHS to keep me entertained. Turned out it was some Spice Girls porn parody, and when she came back to check on me she quickly realized and pulled the tape out. I think she was more scarred than I was. I was a very young and forgetful girl, so I don't remember anything specific about it other than it was really dirty. I found a letter between my parents back when my dad was in the army 10 years before I was born when cleaning out the house. He was saying how they should get a divorce because it just wasn't seeming to work out. When I was 16, they did end up getting a divorce. I've never talked to them about it.
I turned 36 this year, and I decided to focus on my physical fitness, so I bought a swim club membership. The only problem was, most of the time when I go swimming, I wind up getting an ear infection. So it turns out that normal earplugs, they kind of irritate your ear canal, they don't really work, they don't keep the water out, but there is an amazing kind of earplug. It's called Mack's Pillow Soft Silicone earplugs that, they feel great, they keep the water out 100%, they're reusable, and they don't irritate your ear canal at all, no issues. If you've ever had a severe ear infection, you don't want to experience that again. It can permanently damage your hearing if you're unlucky. So investing in these earplugs is definitely a good idea. Also, when my baby was crying later this year and I could not get to sleep, I used the same earplugs and they worked great. I was able to sleep right next to a crying baby. So be sure to click my affiliate link and purchase some of these Mack's earplugs today.